Napoleon Bonaparte must be having hiccups in his grave right now, because Beijing seems to be living by one of his most famous rules. Never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. And right now, Donald Trump appears to be on a roll. A never-ending war with Iran, inflation at home, and allies jumping ships. Trump lands in Beijing with a foot in his mouth. The U.S. president has openly confirmed that Iran will be one of the central topics in his meeting with Xi Jinping.
Well, I think number one, we're going to have a long talk about it. I think he's been relatively good, to be honest with you. You look at the blockade, no problems. They get a lot of their oil from that area. We've had no problem. And he's been a friend of mine. He's been somebody that we get along with. And I think you're going to see that good things are going to happen. This is going to be a very exciting trip. A lot of good things are going to happen.
It suggests something Trump doesn't like saying out loud. The US needs China to help contain the very crisis Trump started alongside Benjamin Netanyahu. And this is a stunning geopolitical reversal. Trump is forced to ask for help from a country that has arguably become the most powerful competitor that the US has confronted in its history. And if Xi agrees to help with the Iran situation, what is China asking in return? Here are three massive possibilities. I'm Ananya Datta. Let's get started. While the Europeans are just learning how to play Trump's game, China aced it 9 years ago. Donald Trump went to Beijing back in 2017 and he was wooed hard. Complete with dinner inside the Forbidden City and honor no US president before him had received. Today's reception promises to be just as grand, including a stop inside Zhongnanhai, the rare compound where China's top leadership lives and works. So with aesthetics sorted, let's get to work. The US president has said Iran is definitely going to be on the agenda. Even though he isn't even close to wrapping up the war in Iran, he says he needs no help.
Do you think he needs to intervene at all with the Iranians?
I don't
Do you
think
think
he
can
does,
help
no.
in any way?
No, I don't think we need any help with Iran. We'll win it one way or the other. We'll win it peacefully or otherwise. Their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone, every single element of their war machine is gone.
But experts don't agree with Trump.
So obviously the war in Iran will be probably a large portion of the conversation just because it's a huge monkey wrench in the global economy. And again, China has a huge role to play in sort of potentially swaying Iran in ways that we simply don't, because we don't have the economic leverage over Iran that we do because of the sanctions on Iran. I would say that, again, Iranian exports of oil to China are obviously important, but oil markets in some sense, oil is a commodity. Oil goes to the highest bidder. So in some sense, if China is willing to pay for higher prices of oil from other parties, they'll be insulated from this. In addition to that, China has built up massive stores of oil. So they are among other parties, they're one of the more insulated to this type of shock than anybody else.
But this could also be a slippery slope, where the leaders of the world's two largest economies walk into the same room. It is also about ego, optics, and who appears to be bending first. Trump cannot afford to look like he's begging Beijing for help after spending years and years portraying China as America's greatest threat. And Xi certainly cannot afford to look like he's taking orders from Washington.
I think often the United States, and I think even Donald Trump, overestimate the influence that China may have on its many partners around the world, and that includes Iran. So the idea that Tehran would sort of take notes from Beijing and do whatever Beijing wants it to do is really not a way to understand that relationship.
China isn't new in this Iran dynamic. There are multiple reports claiming that China has been pushing Iran towards a ceasefire behind the curtains. We saw the most public display of this just last week. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi landed in Beijing to meet his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi.
Although we have kept in touch through phone calls and various other means, Since the United States and Israel launched their illegal war against Iran, a war that has been ongoing, our stance remains adhering to the principle of peaceful coexistence.
So say China agrees to speak to Iran and help reach a situation where Tehran and Washington both can claim victory and the world lives happily ever after. But what will Xi Jinping ask in return? You see, Taiwan sits at the top of the Chinese president's demand list and also happens to be his red line. But Trump is expected to poke the bear.
Do you think we should still be selling them weapons? The United States should
Well, I'm
still
going to
sell
have that
weapons to
discussion with President Xi. President Xi would like us not to. And I'll have that discussion. That's one of the many things I'll be talking about.
According to reports, the Trump administration has delayed a $13 billion arms package for Taiwan, including air defense missiles. And Xi would like to keep it that way. Some experts are also saying that Trump might be asked to use stronger language against Taiwan's independence in respect to the One China policy. Then, of course, there is the economic benefit.
So from both sides, this is a both huge economic and strategic issue. I really don't think that this is on the agenda in large, or I think the U.S. side would very much not want this to be on the agenda for these discussions. I think that much like China has slowly over time tried to change the status quo in the South China Sea and other areas, I think they'll try to use this as an area to slowly change the status quo, try to get the U.S. to change verbiage, change decisions around weapon sales.
Trump's transactional reputation has created anxiety in Taipei that Taiwan could become a pawn in the latest summit. Now, second is trade, which was the top priority just 2 months ago. While the Iran war has eclipsed it, the issue still persists. It's around 6.5 months since Trump and Xi agreed what's known as the Busan Truce, a pause in their trade war following talks at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit that happened in South Korea last year. Tensions have remained high, however, with America's trade deficit with China still exceeding $200 billion despite narrowing sharply in 2025. Trump's favorite weapon here, tariffs, aren't faring well with Xi's economic ambitions of becoming self-reliant. But if China, say, has the upper hand here, it would like to keep export controls on AI chips, semiconductor tools, and advanced computing technologies. At the same time, politely reject Trump and his tech bros' dream to get access to China's critical minerals. And they say it won't be that simple.
Don't see, however, suddenly the tariff war, the trade war is being resolved. This will continue for some time, and it's a matter of leverage, maybe tit for tat, that both sides have on each other. And this will probably be, in my mind, going forward, a kind of long-term feature of the U.S. China relationship.
Now, the third reason is an equal footing. This is going to be less of a demand and more of a realization. Interestingly, it was Trump in his very first national security strategy document back in 2017 who labeled China as a quote-unquote strategic competitor. But you see, a lot has changed in the following years, and it had more lessons for Washington than Beijing.
In 2017 and 2018, the Trump administration was the first to officially identify China as a strategic competitor. However, at that time, the United States had not yet clearly defined what exactly it was competing with China over. Now, after a period of adjustment as mentioned earlier, the Trump administration has come to realize that the previous approach to strategic competition with China has proven ineffective. On the contrary, it may even harm U.S. economic development. As a result, the United States has begun to gradually adjust its policy. That is to say, there is now a need to define the boundaries of competition and avoid the overextension of competition in dash, applying competitive lens to every issue. Doing so would be detrimental not only to the development of bilateral relations, but also to the broader evolution of international relations.
So there is no doubt that the two leaders are seeking tangible wins from this meeting. Like a trade deal would be a huge relief. But even without that, a US presidential visit after nearly a decade declared that China is open for business. And for Trump, if he is able to walk away saying that he convinced Chinese to buy more American goods, he may see that as a win. Where we enter is we go beyond the optics and the headlines and ask if this war benefited Russia and brought Trump to Xi's doors, was this ever about Iran's nuclear enrichment? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm Ananya Datta. Thanks for watching.